welcome back. So let's come back into here. So at the moment we just have the audio. We have no code in here as yet. So no construction script, none of that stuff yet. So what we're going to do, what I want to do first up is have a look at the variables. I'm going to create just a single sound cue variable that we can set here. So we haven't talked much about these, but I guess the first thing we can talk about are the component variables here. So we have audio, cylinder, and default scene root. And if we have a look up here, we have default scene root, cylinder, audio. So these are how we can access the different parts of, or the different components that we have in code if we need to. And we'll be doing that with the audio there. So they're the first set of variables we have. We can also add variables, of course. We've done that, but I haven't really talked about it in any great detail. So if I click on this plus sign here, it gives me a new variable. So I'm going to call this my sound. And by default, it comes to as a Boolean, but we have different options here. So we can change it here, or we can come up to the right-hand details section here, and we can change things here as well. So we can select the drop-down. And you can see we have Boolean, which is our basically on-off, yes, no, true, false. We have byte, which is an 8-bit number. We have integers, and then we have a 64-bit number. Integer is one we kind of use the most in our scripting. We also have a float, which we use a lot when we're dealing with internal game objects. We have something called a name, a string as well. We have text, which we have used before when we set our text values. We have a vector, which is basically a three floats. We have a rotator, and we have a transform. A transform is a collection of a location, a rotation, and a location, rotation, and scale. So we have three different things in there. So we've got, these are our basic variables, so we can select any of those, but we also have, well, we have structures here, which we're not going to look at the moment. We have our interfaces that we have here as well, and we also have our object types, and then we have some enums. At the moment, we're interested in object types. Now, these are essentially, if you've done any coding before, these essentially are kind of pointers, but they're friendly pointers. We don't have to worry too much about the way that pointers work too much. There are a lot of them here. So you can see we've got actors here, our basic actor blueprint class. We've got actor sequence, actor component, etc., etc. So there's a lot of different things in here. The best way to find what you're looking for is to use the search bar. So if I just type in sound, and it didn't do that. If I just type in sound again, sound. What we are looking for is a sound cue, because that's what we've just added, and we want our object reference there. So this is reference an instanced object of the sound cue. So we can do that like that. It says down here, please compile the blueprint. So we can compile that like so. And now we have a variable of type mySoundCue. And if you remember as well, we have this little I over here also. If we want it private, if we don't want, say, a designer to be able to drag it in and change and set the object within the level to dynamically change that, we would leave that closed as it is now. I actually want to be able to change it, so I'm going to select that to make it open. And then we've got a default value at the moment, and we can really make that whatever we like. We need to, I'm just going to compile and save it again. So if we want a default sound, we can just come into here. We could select the fire again. What's a spark sound like? I think I might just select the sparks. So let's just grab that one and do that. And let's have a look at what that looks like now in here. So we now have a default section of our details, and we have my sound in there, and we can see that's set to fire Sparks Q as well. Now, because we have set it to being open, we can change it. Actually, one other thing I'll show you just briefly, which is important. So we've got that there. So the variable is public and is editable on each instance of the blueprint. Now, if we leave it open, we've also got a description up here as well. That comes up as a tooltip. So let's just say you can select the sound, compile, and then now if we come into here, we've got my sound. If we hover over here, you can see it says my sound. You can select the sound, so you can add a tooltip in there as well if you want to. The other thing we can do, so at the moment it's up the top and it says defaults in the default section. That's actually kind of fine. That's all right. That's what I want. But we can change that with our category. So if I wanted to come in here, at the moment we only have default, but let's say I wanted to have sound stuff, and I had a whole lot of different variables in the sound stuff area. Now if I come into here, it says sound stuff. Now let's just check. It's up the top. That's nice. So it used to put it all the way down. Actually, yeah, it used to put it sort of all the way down where it would be, but now it's up there, which is really good. So we've named the section here. We can add, so we could add another one if we wanted to. So say if we want to add a second sound, easiest way to do that is to come into here. Whoops, don't do that. Right click and duplicate. So we've got another sound cue, and that's my sound. Let's make it my sound 1. And it's a complete duplicate there, so it's also in sound stuff. If we compile that as well, you'll see now we've got 2 sounds in here as well. So what we can do is that we can, because we've made that accessible, editable, we can come in and we can change that if we want to. So let's just find something that's kind of interesting. It's one that loops, that's the main thing. Yeah, okay, so let's do that. So now we can come into here. I've got this selected in here. And if I come in, don't want to change it. I don't want to change it to the blueprint in here. And I can just select that and I can make it my smoke.q, that one there. So let's just run that, see what happens. If we come closer. And well, look what's happened. It's exactly the same. So why is that? Well, we put our variables in there, but currently we can see it here. So we put our sound variables here, but we've all got our audio component here, and we haven't actually changed that. So the audio component is still set to our fire cue. Now, if we want this to work nicely and dynamically, what we can do is we can change it in the construction script. So what we want to do is we can just grab, we can either come here or we can come to our components here. And we should be able to set that if we hold down the Alt key. So I can either drag it like this, just straight across, holding down no keys, and it says get or set audio. So, okay. The other option is I can hold down the Alt key, and then it will set it for us. So, cool. And if I then go and drag this one through, and this time if I hold the Control key, it'll get a copy of the sound. We should just be able to, it's not going to do it. Oh, okay. Why is that? Hang on. Let's try something. I think, I'm pretty sure I'm going to do this. Let's just grab a copy of it, audio, and then set sound. Hey, now we can do it. All right. So with some of the objects in here, the way we set them is going to be different. So this itself, so if you look at this, you're saying, well, okay, all I'm doing is I'm just selecting a cue here. And if we look at our sound down here as well, well, you're doing the same thing, aren't you? So why can't we just make one equal to the other? Difference is because this is a component, it's kind of an object which contains lots of different stuff. So instead of just doing what I looked at before, so let's just try that again. So if I just go and drag this and say, I want a setter, so I'm going to set the audio. Now you'd think, well, why can't I just drag that into there? It's because this is a sound component. We would have to say this, we would have to set this to the value of a sound component. This is a sound cue variable. So what we need to do is we just need to say, okay, give me my sound component, and then for that sound component, which is this, I want to change that. So essentially that's what I'm doing here. So all I'm doing is I'm saying set the sound, and I'm setting my sound to my sound variable right there. So let's delete that, we don't need that. Now we're also doing this in the construction script. So what that will do is just connect that up, compile. And you can see that running, because it's a construction script, it runs this whenever you make changes to the blueprint. Okay. Whereas if we were to go into here, we could do it in begin play, but that would not be run until we actually played the game. But of course, when you're coming into here and you're maybe making changes to sort of sounds and things, you want to be able to hear them when they're in here. So we can see already that has actually changed that to smoke cue from the fire cue that originally was at. So it actually changes in here. Now if we go and just go back to the top here, if we go and change this again, so at the moment this is audio, this is smoke 1 cue, smoke 1 cue, they're the same. So let me just grab some water. If we then go and change the value, this value, to something different, what have we got? What's starter music sound like? Yeah, let's change it to that. So if we now come into here, change my sound to starter music cue, and then we go and have a look at what's in audio, it's now changed that automatically to starter music cue. That's because the code is in the constructor. So as soon as we make any changes like that, the changes are automatically seen in here. So now, if we come, by default, this is the one we get. All right. So what we're going to do next is we're going to look at adding a few different sounds in there. We're going to create an array of sounds. Hopefully you can hear me. And we are going to then randomly select one of those sounds to play in our game. So I'll be back in just a second.